we might just need to go over it and over it, but like, why would we say that you're not having any impact on utility if you're not the case that tips the scale or whatever?
Oh, I don't agree with that. That's not my view. So I don't think that if you're I don't think that if you're the what they're trying to say. So first of all, no, I don't agree that just because you're not the case tips the scale that you don't have an impact on utility. But what they're trying to say is that if you are not the person who tips the scale, that's just something that they're asserting. This is just a different line of pushback. This is saying, okay, even assuming that's true, it's still not clear that you have shown that you're not actually going to do that.
No, I understand that. I'm just raising this separate point. Because something seems fucked about that line of thinking. Like, because
let me just ask you this. Like, let's just say that somehow you knew, right? Somehow you knew that if you were like the seventh person out of 10, and if you didn't participate, for whatever reason, someone else would have taken your place and participated in your place. And the same number of thresholds would have been met. In that hypothetical, do you think a consequentialist would care whether you engage or not engage?
No, obviously not. But why? Wait, why are we saying that's the situation that we're dealing with when you buy a product?
Oh, that's a great question. No, I don't believe that's the situation we're in when we buy a product. Or they would say, even if like someone else doesn't take your place, even if they'll just say for some whatever reason.
But wait, I still want to say,
yeah, sure.
Sorry, what fucks with me is it seems like I can't get out of my head that you're still morally responsible if you contribute to the threshold being met. It doesn't matter if you're the edge case or not. It's like you're still putting money into the pot, and that pot of money is what causes the suffering.
Even if had you not put money into that pot, it would have happened.
That's the move that's fucked. Why is that fucked? It might be because you're selecting a specific possible world as the one to look at. Like you're going, either there's the world where you do it, or there's the world where you don't. And it's like, well, it's a proper subset of the worlds where you don't, where like a difference is made, right? Let me think about this, because the whole idea is like if other people do it with you, like it will make a difference. There'll be one less threshold met, right? But I guess you'd even try to say it on the way down. You try to say unless, like, it doesn't matter if you're unless you're the guy who ticked the threshold up, you didn't do anything bad, and unless you're the guy who ticked the threshold down, you didn't do anything good, right?
Yeah, it would be symmetrical. Whatever case you make for the up, you would make for the down.
Yeah, but there's something fucked about saying that nothing would change about the amount of suffering if you don't buy the
It's just the argument that they make with respect to the modern supply chains, right? It doesn't make. That's why the other analogies don't make sense. I'm just
no, but even I don't care about that. No, not to be rude.
Wait. He's talking about yeah. He's talking about a principled fucking. He's talking about a principled level of mindfuckery, not the empirical or pragmatics.
Yeah, that's all beside the point. The core.
Okay, I thought you said purchasing. Okay, yeah, okay.
No, I mean, well, yes, but I'm not. But purchasing doesn't have to involve like all of the empirical real world details you're talking about. I've abstracted out to a hypothetical, right? And it's like I want to know if that hypothetical makes sense, because I don't have the reply to it right now, but it feels wrong. Like I can't sign off on it because I think that we're making some kind of error in how we're looking at it.
Isn't that because
because I keep getting presented with this reasoning, but like I just keep not forming the belief, and I don't know why. So it's like something's not clicking for me.
Isn't that because if everyone thinks that way, then a difference will happen?
Well, that's not precise enough. You need to have like a precise kind of response. It's like the idea is supposed to be if you didn't make the purchase, there would be no difference in utility. So there's no so the purchase if you didn't make the purchase, there would be no difference in utility. So the purchase is morally irrelevant. But why are you only comparing it to the possible world where where just that purchase has changed? Why aren't you comparing it to the possible world where it's part of a like collective action? Like there's the possible world where like, okay, look, say there's 12 people and you only need 10 of them to contribute to get the hitman to buy something, right? It's like in the possible, oh, okay, there's a whole thing I could talk about here actually. It's like in the possible world where only you don't pay, nothing's different. But in the possible world where you and one other guy don't pay, something is different. Why are we like selectively looking at the one where you don't pay and saying that's all vegans are caring about? We're obviously caring about creating the collective action, that other. So it's like let's just give some nomenclature, right? Possible world 1 is 12 people pay, possible world 2 is 11 people pay, and possible world 3 is oh wait,
Can
no,
I
let's
offer you a
let's
solution,
do
Isaac?
yeah, okay.
I think the solution why it's not clicking with you is because you have oral intuitions that are deeply different from consequentialism, and you are confusing that with whether consequentialism itself leads to that conclusion.
That's possible, but I need to think about that for a second because okay, so let's avoid language of whether it's good or bad. Let's just talk about utility so we don't like fall into that.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's possible world 1. Let's say that's the one with 11 people. Possible world 2 is 10 and possible world 3 is 9, okay? And you need 10 for the purchase to happen. So it's like when you look at like oh shit, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you say, does your not buying anything make a difference? Well, I mean, if you look at just possible world 10, it's like, no, it didn't do anything. But if you look at possible world 9, where you've done the same action, it did do something. And it almost feels like a straw man of veganism to say that, like, we're talking exclusively about you making this action alone, right? It's like, why aren't we looking at the other possible world where enough other people stop? Why are we construing the action as I just don't buy this, as opposed to I participate in a collective action not to buy this, and then compare it to the possible world where you have 9 people buying instead of one where you still have
They're
10
just
people buying?
stipulating a case. They're just stipulating that if it turns out empirically that it is the case that wait, what? Someone in the chat is trolling very hardcore. They're just stipulating that if the empirics turn out to it being the case that utility didn't change, let's say we're in the possible world with 9 people and someone doesn't partake, that doesn't change utility. In 11 people, someone doesn't partake, that also doesn't change utility. They're just saying that if the empirics turn out to be the case that we're in any of those worlds, the consequentialist wouldn't care.
So why are we saying it's more likely when? So we have to also look at this over the course of your life, because as vegans accumulate and you look at not just for the binomial, this will also be a binomial problem, I think, actually, but it's a different one because it's not just your probability. It's like if you look at, you have to picture like 2 series of possible worlds, and it's like the future from this point to the future. That was a terrible sentence. Like this point to the future in 2 possible worlds, and in one of them the number of vegans like increases and in the other it doesn't, or something like that. And I think that's an okay way to think about it. And then you're gonna go like you're gonna go like the threshold that would have been met. It's like you're still going to have a threshold that's exceeded by some amount in either world, but it's like which threshold that is that ends up getting met is still different between those 2 possible worlds, and that's in virtue of all of the people who are buying shit, right? It's like it's in virtue of like everyone who is part of the difference in that, like sorry, I don't know how to say this. Do you want to comment at this point?
Just 1 second. I'm making a purchase.
Okay, that might give me a minute to think a bit more
But then
clearly.
I have to think about if my purchase will put me over the threshold.
Right.
Okay. Is there Isaac? Isaac.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
wait,
Yeah, go ahead.
we need to clear this up. So if you have a bunch of people, so okay, say that we add another world, and that's world 4, and that's where 8 people buy. Do you want to say the only case where you make a difference is when you move from 9 to 11? Like you don't even, or sorry, from 11 to 9, you don't even want to say sorry, from world 1 to 3, you don't want to say when you move from 1 to 4 there's a difference either?
Where I forgot the particulars of the example, but wherever the threshold would be crossed.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, so I guess we need to talk that through. You can try explaining it again, but
Sure.
it's not clicking with me.
Yeah. So if the threshold, if the empirics are such that a difference in the actions does not result in the threshold being crossed, then it's not the case that the difference in the actions would result in differing utility. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, but it's the whole thing that's fucking with me is looking at like this individual, like there's something wrong about the whole way that's being looked at, right? It's like why why would we say that utility doesn't I hate not having the words like this. I just have such a strong intuition there's something wrong about how that's being said there.
Um. Well, what's wrong about it? Like, let's. I mean, I know you don't have the words, but um, let's just say. I mean, look. Let's just say that there's. Um, let's just say that there's 11 people partaking in consumption, and let's just say that.
Because you get this I just don't understand. Sorry, it's like there's no way that utilitarians are going to want to say that, like, you know, eh, the majority of people who are eating vegan foods or carnous foods are not actually contributing, right? And it's only these like um the people tipping the thresholds, right? Like what I cannot get over, although I can't put it in the right way that it's a reply to this, is I can't get over the notion that like your action is causing there to be the amount of money that there is going towards this. And it's the fact that there's that chunk of money there that's making it happen. It's like it doesn't matter if your individual purchase would stop anything or not. It's about if your individual purchase in combination with other people as a form of collective action would do something.
Okay. So are you saying that the construal of utilitarianism is not such that one would that actions are judged on the basis of the difference in utility?
I think that this is it. I think I might have it. It's that we're straw manning veganism by saying that the vegan position is you individually don't buy a product, when really it's you contribute to the mass of people not buying the product who tip the threshold.
Okay, but that's fine. But because this is not like this is so we can, that's fine. But the question is, what does a utilitarian say about the individual's action? Now, if the individual's action causes it causes an outcome to happen. However, if the individual didn't perform that action, that outcome, the same outcome, would be caused anyway. Does the utilitarian care?
But no, why it's that, no, but it's that looking at that as the action of you just don't buy this thing. When the action is actually you don't buy this, and additionally a lot of other people don't buy it.
Well, wait, hold on. One second. There's a distinction in terms of what the concern is that I'm trying to get at. Because here's forget about the, like, I understand, like, believe me, like, I understand, like, the responses, like the vegan response and everything like that. But what I'm saying is, if there is an action such that, like, let me just put it into a concrete example. Like if I were to stab an
Sure.
innocent
Can I
person-
frame it like this, Avi? Say that I'm advocating for the action of being part of the group of people who tip the threshold, as opposed to the action of not buying an individual product, because that's a straw man of what vegans are caring about. If you take that as the framing, then any individual not contributing will tip the threshold, will cause the threshold not to be met, right? I'm advocating for the action of being part of the group of people who collectively tip the threshold. Right?
Okay,
If a single one doesn't do that, then according to the action I'm trying to achieve there,
I understand. So I'm gonna call. I have an Uber to call, but I'm going to remain on. And once I you know what? Let me just set this up, and then I'll continue the conversation. It'll be like 2 seconds.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Now we're gonna be Uber debating, just like before. So
yeah, you can convince me I'm wrong here.
So I don't know if I'm trying to convince you you're wrong. There's a distinction that I want you to appreciate of what kind of construal of utilitarianism you can have.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'll do this with a concrete example. So let's say we have the 10 people passing a knife from one to the other, and the final person kills someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we stipulate such that if that chain of passing the knife if one person decided to opt out, they would be replaced by another. Now, it depends what a utilitarian would say about that person's action that decided to opt out. Depends on your construal of what is cared for on a utilitarian view. In terms of what it... Now, if what you care is the action itself results in a causal connection between that action and the utility that is produce or decrease, then yes, a utilitarian would care about it. If what a utilitarian is concerned about is not whether there's a causal connection per se, but that there's more than that not only is there a causal connection, but not just per se, but that it actually would have made a difference had that action not been done. If that is the type of utilitarian,
yeah, I get that. I get it. Yeah, I understand that distinction, but I think that when I attacked it on that angle, I was actually taking the wrong road, because it's not. It's like I think my intuition here is applying to utilitarianism generally. So I don't think that the road of saying, let's distinguish between caring about whether you causally are connected to suffering versus whether you decrease utility. Because first of all, I think more utilitarians will just take the second, right? So it's like that's kind of what utilitarianism is. And additionally, it's like, well, actually, here that's enough. So I understand the distinction though, being causally connected versus actually a decrease in utility, versus actually the action not happening would have some impact on utility. But what I'm saying is, I don't want to hold the action constant and take different construals of utilitarianism. I want to make like a pretty global statement about utilitarianism and say we're not considering the action correctly, right? The action being advocated, why does it have to be that the vegan is advocating you don't eat this one product? Like there's two actions you could prescribe, right? Being part of a collective movement that hits the threshold versus not eating a particular product. In both cases, the action prescribed to the individual is the same, right? But the action considered in its totality is actually totally different in those two situations, right? It's like you get the same prescription for an individual, but the action isn't the same. In one case, the action is just you do this. In the other, it's you do this and other people do it with you, right? So I want to say my construal, let's say that I say that veganism is about doing the order, but doing the one where you participate in a collective movement that hits the threshold, right? How?
yeah.
What's the reply to that?
The reply to that is, can you do that and also, just make one meat purchase and eat it?
Is that a reply? Avi? Hello?
Yeah. Why wouldn't it be? Yes, that's the reply, because I don't see why someone why is it that a person cannot partake in this movement, a movement that does result in a threshold difference, but also make one purchase of a stake.
Oh, so you want to say yes? It's okay. Never mind. Maybe what I said is confused because you want to say that it's you're just trying to do the same thing. You're going, yeah, it's good if you turn out being part of that, but if not, then you haven't done anything.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
You want to say what you're doing is good only if it turns out that you were in fact part of that collective push. If it turns out you were just some guy not buying meat, what you did wasn't good.
Wait, hold on. Just 1 second. I need to see if my Uber is here.
Sure.
Okay.
Like,
All right.
say you have
Yeah,
two.
sure.
Like, I'm confused by this kind of thing. Okay, say you have like action A and B, and A and B have to both occur for some positive outcome, right? And it's like the question is doing a oh fuck, now I lost the framing I was
Well,
going to give there.
here's what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, if it is the case that you can be part of a movement that makes a difference in a threshold, while also making a meat purchase, making a one-time meat purchase and eating a steak, then what would be the reason to, on a utilitarian view, what would be the reason to not just do that? What would be the reason to not partake in a
No,
movement?
if there's no utility change, it doesn't matter. But it's something about saying, yeah, that's so weird. Maybe it is just utilitarianism being fucking evil as per usual.
Yeah,
But
no,
it,
that's what I think it is.
it feels so obviously wrong that it's like hilarious to think about. But because if you say like, yeah, it's I guess it depends because you can save yourself from that by saying you care about causally like if you say you care about contributing, right, as opposed because like what is yeah, it's weird because contributing is not actually is that a utilitarian notion? It's contributing to the negative utility coming about, right? Aren't you contributing to the negative utility coming about by buying a purchase, even if you aren't the threshold case, as long as someone else meets that threshold before the next production period?
So it depends. So it depends on what kind of construal, again, of utilitarian you're talking about. The distinction I was talking about. So if it's the case that someone will just take your place if you don't perform the action.
No.
You're
The distinction you're
oh,
talking
sure,
about
sure.
was the distinction you were talking about was being causally connected versus
Yeah,
decreasing utility, and
yeah.
I'm questioning why we would say that you're not decreasing utility.
Oh, well, that's just the empirical. Okay. So that's not the principle
I know. I'm
issue.
sorry.
That's
I'm not trying to go back and forth. I just don't have it clear. So I'm not intending to jump around like that. But I'm seeing it happen. So I do apologize.
Yeah. So to bring it back to the principle case, what gives a good a good example of the principle case is, let's just say you as an individual are, if you were not to perform that action, you're traded out. Another person would have just taken your place, and the same outcomes would have happened. Although the only difference in the outcomes is you would not have been causally connected to the difference in
Well,
utility.
maybe it is about that actually.
Yeah. So now the question there is then, which, do you want to consider that utilitarianism? If what you're concerned with is not just the total amount of utility at the end of the day, if you have an additional concern of actions are wrong if they create a causal connection to the difference in utility, as opposed to like what the actual utility would be at the end of the day.
There's like a few things that, and I keep going back and forth between them, but it's like they keep just occurring to me like in the same way. Like, why are we talking about the action of buying one product and not the action of collectively decreasing the amount of products that are bought?
Yeah. So the reason we're talking about the one product is because even if we want to prescribe the action of being part of a collective purchasing block or non-purchasing block, it's not clear why you couldn't do that while making one-time purchase of the stake. Like,
wait, but why are we talking about a one-time? Sorry, I'm.
Well, yeah, because the whole point is that what utilitarians want to say is that individual purchases are actually bad. Like for example, presumably a utilitarian vegan would want to say that a one-time purchase of a stake that actually is a bad thing on
But
utilitarianism.
It's something about like. So if you don't buy the thing, then it's not it doesn't matter if the threshold gets met, but then if enough other people do it, it does matter because then the threshold was met. So it's like whether the action is good or not just depends about which of those possible worlds you enter by doing the purchase.
Well, it depends on also whether, like, if you were to not partake, what would have happened otherwise. Like that's the construal of utilitarian that I'm trying to juxtapose here. So like even if you were like number 7, the threshold got met. If the threshold would have gotten met otherwise, if
the
some
consequence there, just to be clear, you see the same consequence of this ends up saying that if a million people all pay for, or yeah, let's say 2 people pay for the entire planet to be murdered. The one guy pays billions of dollars, the other guy just pays the final cent. We want to say on this construal the only guy who did something wrong was the guy who paid the cent.
Oh no. Then I would say that all of them were wrong.
Wait,
and the reason, well, let me tell you the reason. The reason all of them are wrong is because in each case, in each of the individual actions, the first millionaire, the second millionaire, and the third one center, if you were to ask the question, had this contribution, had any of these contributions not occurred, then the threshold wouldn't be met. My example that I'm giving you is when that is not the case, and the example when that's not the case is when a millionaire would just replace the other millionaire. So there would be like some other millionaire. If the millionaire didn't contribute, there would be some other millionaire that would just contribute just as well. Or if there were certain institutional policies that for whatever reason would just result in the same outcome, which is what the anti-efficacious argumenters are trying to do. They're trying to say, like, because of there's certain systems, because of certain market systems, that really this is just the case. This is
it's slimy. It's slimy to call it anti-efficacious because you can always just pwn that by going like, okay, well, look, if everyone stops doing it, are you gonna argue if enough people stop doing this, we're not going to see some like massive decrease? So I don't like that term because it's misleading.
That's how they describe themselves. I mean, that's how you can ask
but it's really anti-efficacy of one individual purchase.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which, I don't.
Or well, actually, no. They go further than that. They do go. They say like of an individual's lifetime purchasing. The cumulative probability. They would go further than that. But anyway, that's just what they. That's a.
Yeah, but I don't. It just sounds like what? So what is their whole? It's just there's something fucked about this. You're saying one person makes no difference, but then if enough other people act, I just don't.
No. That's just going back to what you asked me before and what I answered. What I'm saying is that if the conditions are such that the same outcomes would happen anyway, then I don't see why a utilitarian would care. So, for example, let's just say, you know what? Let's do it like this. Let's just say there is there's a butcher that's going to always kill 100 cows every month, and sell the meat. And if they were to, well, let's just make it really simple. Let's just say that's all they would do. Would you be wrong for consuming the meat, for purchasing the meat? If the butcher was committed
Well, let's not
ideologically.
talk about wrong. Obviously, be wrong.
I mean, not
are
wrong, not wrong.
yeah.
Like, sorry. Would a utilitarian say it's wrong? If this butcher,
Well, no,
was just,
you don't. Yeah, if you don't decrease utility, then, or sorry, if you don't, if you don't decrease utility, you haven't done anything wrong.
okay. Now let's make it a bit more complicated. Let's say that there was a threshold by which the butcher would increase.
Yeah, no, I know. I don't.
Yeah.
I just need to think about it there, because I don't know why, but it's like I'm still just not forming the belief. It's like I hear the reasoning. I hear you saying, if you don't buy it, then utility just doesn't change. But it's like,
wait, what belief are you not forming? Just to be clear,
the belief that it has no. Sorry, I just got locked out of my computer. What the fuck? Oh, why is this happening? It's like the screens went off. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I need to make my screensaver not that soon. Yeah, it's the idea of you have no impact on utility unless you're the threshold case. But
that's not what. No.
yeah, but you want to say that.
Can I just ask you this question? Like, okay, here's a simple. I'm gonna get a really simple question. Like, because I don't think I've gotten a clear answer. If you're the knife passing along case where you have 10 people lined up, there's going to be there's a knife that's passed from one person to the second person, etc., to the 10th person. The 10th person does the stabbing, right? Like, you're number 7, and you're passing that knife along to the 8th person. However, we just say, in the hypothetical, if you decide to back out of that whole scenario, that another person would come in and take position number 7, and the same outcome would happen. My question to you, Isaac, is, do you think a utilitarian would say that you did a good thing by stepping out of that situation?
No, because if utility doesn't change, then you haven't done a good thing.
Yeah.
But wait. Utility. But when we say if you don't do the action, utility doesn't change. But it does change in a world where enough other people do it also. It's like there's a subset of those worlds.
Well, hold on. But let's get this before we go and make things more complicated. And just to reverse it, if you were to step into the situation, and partake in the stabbing, if the same stabbing would have taken place if you wouldn't have stepped into the situation, would a utilitarian say that you've done something wrong?
Well, if utility would be the same, no, but
yeah, but you'll notice that your action had a causal connection with that decrease in utility.
Yeah, but you're really emphasizing it's not just about if it's a causal connection. It's about if you having not done it would actually change the outcome.
Yeah, so I'm emphasizing that there's two different views that I need you to be very clear on the separation. So if someone is a utilitarian and takes the view that actions are to be judged based on their causing an increase or decrease in utility, that's not the same view as a utilitarian that says actions ought to be judged based on the utility that would have been otherwise compared to if you took the action.
Right.
So
you can
views.
say like you're causally connected to this Holocaust, but if your causal connection isn't of the sort that, like, had you not done the thing, there'd be an outcome change, then it just doesn't matter on that. Right. So and I mean, I don't even know if there's a kind of utilitarianism that says that what matters is if you're causally connected to it. It's just if you affect the utility. So yeah, if your purchase doesn't affect the utility, I think I actually just have to concede. I think you're right. Yeah, so this is
Yeah.
just this really is just another reason to just like really think utilitarianism is like an evil position. I think that this
Yeah.
actually might be like one of the worst utilitarian reductives I've come across. It's just I didn't it felt weird to say that it's a problem for utilitarianism because it seems like it's such a fucking retarded thing to be committed to that it's like there's no way they're committed to that. But they can't get out of that except if they say that they care about something else than actually affecting utility, right? It's like it doesn't matter if you're causally connected if it doesn't actually affect utility. It's not going to be a problem. Yeah. So no, I think you're right. It's like it's debatable if a view that says I care about your contribution to utility, it's like or not. No, that's not right. Your causal connection, sorry, to utility is even utilitarian. It's like causal connection to utility almost sounds like deontological. It sounds utilitarian because there's
Yeah.
the word utility, but it's not actually about a change in utility that's what makes things good or bad. It's about like a causal connection to something. Like,
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
not. It's
it's
yeah.
debatable if that's even utilitarian. But yeah, so this is just so yeah. I think that now obviously the empirics of the argument run
Right.
earlier were fucked, right? Because there's like there's the first argument where the first premise was sketchy, and then when we got the supporting argument, the second premise was sketchy, and then it looked like the supporting argument for that premise, that premise of the second argument, although Ants wanted to take some time to work on it. I'll be curious when he comes back what exactly he says about it. He's a smart guy, but it's like it looked like that premise though in that second argument, P2 of the second argument. It seemed like the support for that was going to be kind of like almost like a just so story. It seemed like it was going to be something about like just kind of like mechanistic speculation about how like a market works, right?
Yeah.
It didn't seem like we were going to get like an RCT or something like that. And I
Or
guess
not
people,
even not even anything. I don't think there'll be anything close to an RC. I don't
and the
think there'll
thing
even
is,
be anything close to a cohort. Like,
right?
but
So
yeah.
that will probably just wreck the argument, frankly. But like the other thing is like there might be a response. I think that someone in Ance's position is going to want to maybe say like that's just like maybe an unfair standard because that's like the kind of evidence we have in the field. But then that's it's not
Well,
that it's an
no,
unfair
that's
standard. That's a criticism of the field, right? It's
yeah.
like, well, I'm sorry,
It's
the
the
field doesn't
criticism of the
produce good
state of the
enough
evidence.
evidence,
Yeah.
right? Exactly.
Yeah. Like imagine
Yeah.
taking a view where it's like what's acceptable. What evidence is acceptable to form a belief with a given certainty is dependent on how much evidence that's available. It's just the most ridiculous view ever.
So,
Yeah.
so I guess that yeah. So no, I do concede though. It's like I'm sorry for pushing back against it so long. It's just it was really not clicking in my head. But even and it's weird because you said the same debunk so many times, but it just was not like processing. Because I kept just having this impulse of like I don't even know why it was happening. Maybe it was a few things. It was like the thinking about it collectively versus individually, or thinking about you know whether you're causally connected versus whether there'd actually be a utility change in virtue of you not doing the thing. It's like there's a few kind of weird loops running there, and it's like hopping between them. But yeah, I think like in the end, I think what you're saying is actually right here. It's like yeah, unless it actually translates into a utility difference, it's not got a moral status on utility. Well, it's got the neutral moral status on utilitarianism.
Yeah.
And it's debatable whether that kind of view that saves you from this consequence actually counts as utilitarian. Although I don't think picking hairs about if that's utilitarian is the most interesting thing. Like someone might argue it's actually to care about a causal connection to utility as opposed to an actual change in utility is to care about something deontological almost. Like someone might try to argue something like that and say it's not even utilitarian. But the classification doesn't matter that much. It's just that's a way that you can save it. If you talk about your connection to the your causal connection, then you can say, okay, then all these people are morally at fault who are up to and below. But yeah, no, the bottom line is like you can take a utilitarian position to get around that and say, no, I only care about, and this is like the standard kind of position. I only care about the actual impact on utility. And it's like, what's the probability that your purchase results in a difference in utility? And it's like, it's low. Well, wait, that your individual purchase. Well, yeah, so that's where you have to. It's for an individual purchase. It's probably the case, but it's well, actually, even that you need to do. Okay, let's talk about the empirics in a second. But forgetting the empirics for a second about how likely it is, it's like, yeah, ultimately on utilitarianism, the action doesn't matter unless it actually causes a utility change. So, yeah, it's like, you know, there's just not a problem with buying animal products unless you're that threshold case on that view. So yeah, that seems right. It's just a really like insanely evil position to hold. But yeah, I don't know how to fight that. It seems correct.
Yeah. No, it's yeah. So yeah, I mean.
So I wouldn't actually fight the argument at like at the level of like, well, I guess when we formalized it, I forget exactly what it said. I guess I would be talking about fighting P2, right? Does anyone have that still? Anyone who's still listening in here, the P2 or the original formulation of the first part? I'm trying to go scrolling, but your chat's been fucking blowing up a little bit for this. Holy shit, where is it? The no individual, right? So if modern markets and supply chains are large enough, then large private companies will base their decisions on so and so. If they do that, that's not the right argument. That's the same one. Did someone post it yet? No, you're just posting the first premise, Pragma. Well, I can't remember. I wanted to actually look at it, but yeah, I wouldn't try to fight it. Click it. Oh, okay, yeah. So if modern markets and supply chains are large enough, then no individual purchase will cause more animals to be slaughtered. If no individual purchase will cause more animals to be slaughtered, then right. When you put it in that form, it's not even obvious how it's connected exactly to this utilitarian problem. It's almost like this was like a concern that kind of came up in my mind, but it's not even strictly what the argument's about. But I'm still glad we talked about it because I didn't realize that about utilitarianism.
And I don't know if anyone recorded like both conversations, but if anyone can send me both conversations, because they're both very interesting, I'd put it on my channel.
Yeah,
oh, perfect.
You can finally put up a video fucking defeating call it like forcing, make it a meme title, like forcing ask yourself to concede something utilitarianism.
Oh, perfect. If anyone recorded that.
Well,
did anyone record this?
I don't know. We had okay,
oh,
Guac
perfect.
did. I was gonna say we advised them. I think I originally said I don't care, and then we advised them not to because we were like, don't like mess up the ants recording. But okay, that's good. She has it. Yeah.
All right, perfect. So
that's such a like comically evil view though. Like imagine like holding a position like that. It's just like like 10 people just pay for, a hitman to just like commit murder. And to be clear, I notice Ants is back in here now. I'm not characterizing Ants, characterizing a view that would say you only matter if threshold purchase. I think the problem with Ants's view is in premise one of the first argument, or sorry, premise two of the first argument, and then premise one of the second argument seems like it doesn't have good support. But so this isn't a criticism of Antsness. That view is just so comically evil. It's like 10 people pay for murder. It's like only the final guy. Like it's so funny because say you could even set up a situation as we're all like gathering together to pay the hitman, right? Like it's just like you're all doing the exact same action. You're all like coming over and like putting money in this like pot or something, and then putting it in the hitman's hand. But it's like just whoever like like just the traffic is what makes the difference between whether you're like this evil person or didn't do anything wrong. It's just so funny to think like that.
Yeah.
As in like if you get stuck in traffic and then you end up being like what, like or no, you don't. Yeah, the person who gets stuck in traffic and ends up being late, it's like he ends up being this like evil person, even though everyone had like all the same kind of intentions. If intentions matter to you, they all like tried to bring about the same state of affairs. They all causally contributed to this murder happening. But yeah, only the last one isn't. Well, no, that does that actually
only
work?
No, it's not that only the last
because that's another one where if every
it's not that only the last one. It's just if there was a substitution along the way that you backing out of it wouldn't have been you wouldn't have done anything
No, but you don't even have to do the substitution. You can just, if there's 11 people, right? Because then
Oh yeah, that's it.
then it's just whoever was the threshold case was the bad guy. The other 11 people, they're not bad. Now it's funny because if you say there's 10 people, then you can say they're all bad, because if any single one of them stopped, right, the thing doesn't happen. They're equally all in the position where if they don't do the thing, the utility goes up or doesn't go down, or however you frame it. But if there's 11 people,
then maybe none of them are bad.
Yeah, I'd have to think about the framing, but it's either bad, only the guy who made the purchase is bad, right? Because no, wait, not even. Is it none of them are bad?
It's true for all
What
of
is
them.
the
None of them are bad, because it's true of all of them that if they didn't do it, the same outcome would happen.
It's just like, that's such a comical view. Are you sure? Like, every time I say this, I keep thinking that I must be strawmanning utilitarianism. Like, I can't see what's wrong with the reasoning. It's just such a comically retarded thing to say that it's like, I can't get my head around. Like, surely there's some roundabout way they can say that everyone there is like affecting utility. Well, it's not about affecting utility. That's being causally connected.
No, that's the causal connection thing you're doing
That's
again.
and I know, it's like I'm so prone towards that, because like, yeah, I think you're right that it's my natural moral thinking coming in, because in my mind it's fucking obvious that if 11 people pay a hitman but only 10 of them had to contribute, everyone there did something fucking evil, right? And it's like, it's just the fact that, like, if it doesn't matter like who the fucking threshold case is. It's like you all just put money in a pot to like make someone get fucking assassinated. Like, that's bad. But yeah, that's hilarious.